Last year we showed you how to steam crawfish. Fantastic method, but today I figured I would go old school, traditional, the way I learned how to do crawfish many years ago. Now we got a crowd over here, so if you hear anything going on in the background, it is, in fact. But we're getting ready to do these crawfish, old school, traditional style crawfish, where everything gets done in one pot, from the potatoes, the corn, the sausage, the crawfish. We're even incorporating shrimp into one of these bowls. We're doing it all one pot, one cleanup. It's the way it's been traditionally done for many years. But with that said, I hope you do try to steam crawfish version one day. That video was shot a year ago. Before we actually get started with this boil, I want to show you this brand new pot that I'm using. This thing is bad to the bone. This is a high performance pot made by High Performance Cookers. Now, some of you that's been following me for years probably remember the old rocket pots that I used to use. Those were high performance pots too. Well, this one right here is actually even better than the rocket pot. The rocket pot could do a boil. It could get water boiling like 15 gallons. It could get 15 gallons of water boiling twice as fast as a standard slick bottom pot. Well, this pot can do it in almost 3 times the speed. You can take 15 gallons and put it in here. If the water is around 80 degrees, you can actually have this up to a roaring boil in as little as 7 minutes. You can dial in these crawfish perfectly to where they're perfectly cooked. And what I mean by that, if you had an old slick bottom pot, when you pour your crawfish into that water that took 20-25 minutes to get to a boil, it's going to cool that pot right back off. It's going to take another 15-20 minutes to get to a boil. And by the time it does get to a boil, guess what? They're already overcooked, because just the heat in the pot has slowly cooked them crawfish. This takes all the guesswork out of it. You can pour your crawfish into a rip-roaring boil, and within 1 minute it's right back to a boil. You add 3 minutes of boil time to that. That means this had 4 minutes in this hot pot, 3 minutes at a hard boil. You cut your fire off, you cool the pot down, you let it soak for 20-25 minutes or until they're to your liking. So that's the advantage. But it's a 120 quart all aluminum pot. The wells look good on it. And another thing about this pot, it can also double as a steamer. Let me show you this. So here's a steamer plate right here. And here are the 2 rods that support it. So on the basket where you got all the holes, you can go from 2 inches from the bottom all the way midway, wherever you want to steam at. And these 2 rods here go into that basket perfectly. You put 2 of them, then you lay this on top of it to support it. And you can steam crabs. Last year we showed you how to steam crawfish. You could use this as a steaming pot while you had a second pot with your soaking liquid. You can steam lobster, you can steam shrimp, you can do anything you can do on any other steamer, but this is going to be a wicked steamer, because these kind of pots, man, they put the steam out. So I'll be showing that on a later video. Might do some blue crabs here soon, and I'll show you how well that part works. But this is a boiling and steamer pot combined. This pot does have a valve. That way at the end of your cook, you open the valve. You can hook a garden hose to it or whatever and let it run to wherever you need it to run to. Another key important part of this pot is the built-in burner. This thing sits on its own legs with a built-in burner. It is a triple jet burner that can put out 350,000 BTUs. That's some serious heat right there. Then also the bottom. The bottom is designed to become a heat sink that allows the heat to go into the pot instead of up the sides and out. And that is the beauty of this pot. We have talked about that on previous videos with previous pots that I've had, but this is it here, 120 quarts of awesomeness. So normally when we do these boils, we go ahead and get the water up to a boil, then we add our seasonings into the pot. But since it makes so much noise, I'm gonna go ahead and add the seasonings while it's cold, and I'll start the fire to that. And we'll just have to make sure we constantly stir it until it gets to a boil. The boil itself will help keep everything stirred up until all the powders and everything dissolve into the water. So I love swamp fire. This is one of my go-tos, unless I'm actually using some of my buddies' seasoning like Keith Jenkins. you know, but I don't have any of his stuff this year, so I'm using my go-to. This is Swamp Fire seafood boil. Been using it for years. Now this is a 4.5 pound bag, and a rule of thumb on most seasonings, I'm not going to say all, but this seasoning for sure, you can add 1 pound of this for every 2 gallons of water. I've got 14 to 15 gallons, so we're just going to say we need 7 pounds of seasoning. Should round it off real good. We got 4.5 going in now. Some people think that's way too much seasoning. Let me tell you, 14 to 15 gallons of water is a lot of water. Another 4.5 pounds, but I'm only using half of that, and I am just gonna guess at it. I've been doing this long enough to where I can get it in the ballpark. All right, that ought to be good. Gonna give this a good stir. All right, this is a liquid crab boil concentrate. I'm gonna add about half of that on this boil. We're doing 2 sacks, so I'll put the other 8 after that. Put about half this bottle in this batch. Close enough. Now we bought a bag of lemons. My wife's already washed these and also cut them in half. We're just gonna throw these in. There's no sense to squeeze the juice out of these. That juice will boil out. So I'm basically adding all the flavor into this. Now this, how many onions was this, do you know?
7.
Right. This is 7 onions that my wife also peeled and cut in half. 7 of those. Got 7 heads of garlic. All we did was just cut the tops off of those. And let me tell you, at the end of this boil, you can take that garlic and just squeeze them out of them cloves. Oh, they're so good. But we're putting all 7 of those in here. Now a lot of boils, I'll add bay leaf too. Not doing that today. If any of y'all has been following me, I do change things from time to time. Give this one good mix, and we're gonna fire this up and bring it up to a boil. And we're gonna let it boil about 10 minutes just to work all this flavor into this water. I'm telling you, there is not another pot on this planet that can get this much water to a boil any faster. This is the pot. Once you get it up to a boil, you can choke back on that propane. It'll maintain that boil, as you can see. Then I'll turn it wide open when the crawfish go in. All right, we're starting to get a few people over here, so hopefully you can hear me. I'm gonna go ahead and take the lid off of this. We're gonna turn this thing up as hard as it can go. We're gonna go in with our first batch of crawfish. Now I've been letting this boil for about 8 to 10 minutes just so everything can kind of dissolve and come together in there. If you can see that, that is a pretty good boil to be turned down so low. This is not a hard boil, but it sure looks like one.
TV drink.
All right, let's turn her up. All right, Chad. All right, in with the first sack of crawfish. Here we go. Everybody in. Woo, they love a hot tub.
Yeah. You still got to start.
As you can see, that boil ain't even quite dead, but I'm gonna put the lid. It should be right back to a boil within a minute. Then we're gonna boil them for 3 minutes. All right, so let's cut our fire off. All right, we got our gas turned off. So normally I would cool this off with a boil ball, stir up 3 minutes, drop this temperature. But instead, we're gonna take 10 pounds of these ice cold Gulf shrimp, and we're gonna stir them into the pot, which is gonna do 2 things. The residual heat is going to cook this shrimp, but it's also going to be cooling the pot at the same time. Stir these around good, get those shrimp down in there, and we're just going to let these soak for a good 25 minutes to really pick up this flavor. As these crawfish begin to sink, and they're already sinking. You might be able to see that. That's just from me adding that shrimp and dropping this water temperature down. They're already starting to sink, which means they're flooding with all this seasoned water. These are well on their way to cooling off. Everything is sunk, which means everything's getting absorbed into the crawfish. One last ingredient, I've got some food grade lemon oil, and I'm gonna throw about half of this bottle in there. I'm gonna use the other half on the other boil. And this is going to really give it that lemony background. Hey, Mojo.
Yes, sir. What's up? What can I do for you?
Stand in front of that camera.
Are you showing me off?
Yeah, I'm gonna show you off, man.
How's my hair?
Let me see. Take the hat off. Hair looks great.
Right?
This is Mojo from Mojo Chillin' and Grillin'?
Grilling and chilling with Mojo.
Grilling and Chilling with Mojo, another YouTube channel. He just recently moved to my area, and I'm getting to meet him for the first time today, so we invited him to an official crawfish boil. So we'll bring him back later and let him know what he thinks about him.
Oh, yeah.
Smells good, don't it?
Oh, dude, I just want to come in here and just the juices.
Yeah, no doubt. You ever been on a YouTube video?
A few.
A few? Well, you're on another one. How you doing, Jim?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good. This is my little friend, Jim. We go back about 35 years, probably. It's
Minimum.
minimum. It's been 30 years until just recently that I caught back up with him. So he's a little feller, and I'm gonna feed him, and we're gonna take care of him.
Me.
Little mini me. That's it.
You see how much taller he is?
We got this first batch just draining all the water out. Now what you want to do is let them soak 20 minutes, try them, see if they're up to the flavor you want. If they're not, let them go to 25. I have soaked these up to 30 minutes trying to get as much flavor as I can. But once they soak up and sink, they're pretty much absorbed all they're going to absorb. But we're going to let these drain. We're going to go ahead and pour these out and get the second batch going.
Batch number 1. Oh yeah, there we go.
Looking good. All right, we are firing her back up, getting it back to a boil. All right, I'm not quite up to a boil, but I'm close enough. I'm gonna go ahead and throw this 2.5 pounds in here from this one bag that was left over from the first boil. We're gonna throw the rest of this liquid in here. Let that come to a boil. All right, we are back to a hard ripping boil. I've got some new potatoes, they call them, little red new potatoes going in. We're gonna let them go 15 minutes. Let's cut this fire down some. So I say you can actually cut that fire down and maintain that strong boil on this pot easily. So we're gonna count 15 minutes, then we'll add some other goodies. All right, we have been going right at 15 minutes. Go ahead and remove our lid. Now we did wash and clean these mushrooms. We just put them back in the container so we didn't dirty up any of our containers. These little button mushrooms, they really suck up that flavor. I call them flavor bombs. We're gonna put some Kaneka sausage in here. Almost forgot about it. Some of the best sausage money can buy right there. That is smoked pork sausage straight out of Kaneka County, Alabama. Put our lid back on about 5 minutes. Then we're gonna crank this heat up and do our last batch. All right, let me take this lid off. We're fixing to run this gas up to high, and we're fixing to do our final batch of crawfish. All right, let me put some fire to it.
These are a lot better bags.
All right, bowl number 2 underway. All right, we are back to a steam, as you can see, coming out of there. Let's take a look at it. Oh yeah, we are boiling. Hey Siri, set a timer for 3 minutes.
3 minutes starting now.
So that's what you do. You get it back to a boil. It takes about a minute, not even a half, to get this rip-roaring boil back. Then you time it for 3 minutes after that, and then you cool the pot, let them soak, and man, you're gonna have some excellent crawfish. Ooh-wee, that thing's steaming up a storm. That's what I'm saying. This gives you some kind of indication how good of a steaming pot this would make. Look at the steam boiling out of that bad boy. All right, my alarm is going off. We're gonna kill the fire on this. All right, let's take our lid off. Now I know y'all have seen me in my previous videos use a boil balls to cool this down, and that's a great option. They work fantastic. But today we're going old school. Like I said, this is a traditional boil. We're doing it like we used to do years ago, the way I learned how. So they're piping hot, they're not ready to sink. So what we're going to add into that now is some frozen, and these just come out of the freezer. We're going to take these frozen corn on the cob. Now it's been used for years to cool down a pot. Is it enough to cool it completely? Probably not, but crawfish is not as bad as shrimp as far as overcooking. If you severely overcook them, they will get mushy on you, but I don't think we're going to have that issue. And it's just enough heat to cook that corn and finish these off. We're just going to let these sit here and soak again for 25-30 minutes or until they taste right. All right, I have another old buddy here today. This is Mr. Rob. Some of y'all might hear me talk about Rob every now and then. He was in my recent, what was it, frozen drink?
Frozen slushy machine.
Yeah, the hurricanes.
That's right.
We did the hurricanes, but we've been knowing each other for a very, very long time. And I'm going to close this video because I've showed you everything I can possibly show you on how to do a traditional boil. And I'll show a little random footage of everybody eating these and whatnot. Of course, everybody's pretty much full now, it looks like. But at any rate, they turned out really good. I hope you give it a try if you've never boiled crawfish. And this is not the only video I got. I got quite a few on this subject if you want to look through some of my older videos. So, Rob, I appreciate it. Glad you made it. He had to work late today is the only reason he's just getting here. But we're getting ready to eat some crawfish. Later, guys.